Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Hello, and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. It's even when you try and be serious and you start the pod properly, so I don't laugh, you make me laugh, Kieran, because I can see you trying to be serious. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy day or two,
Isn't it?
In the world of football finance. But it's never quiet, is it?
No.
Yeah, but I managed to do. I think I did. I don't know what the full set of radio and TV stations is, but I did it yesterday.
Well, I've reached a stage now where TalkSport phone me up and say, "Can you come on?" I say yes, and then they go into TalkSport and they say, "How are you?" And I say, "How do you want me to be?" Basically, what do you want? Furious, disappointed, angry? I'm quite cheerful. We're having to record this on Tuesday evening, Kieran, for logistical reasons. I'm a bit stiff. I did my first training walk today. The annual marathon march coming up for the foundation. So I did my first 10K. I got soaking wet because it was pouring with rain. Streatham Common couldn't have been more autumnal. So imagine how happy I am. I was just really cheering me out. I can barely move. I'm still drying out, but I'm really happy because it's in the air, Kieran. I can feel the heat disappearing. Unless, of course, your Sky Sports News around 5 to 7 yesterday when the heat was on, Kieran, because the producer guys got very tabloid on us. The producer guys written here, the first story. The transfer window has slammed shut in block capitals. The transfer window has slammed shut. Hopefully on the fingers of some of the journalists making stuff up as they went along. It got to the stage at 11 o'clock last night. Sky did a parody of themselves with just a montage of contradictory reports that came through. It's definitely happening. It's off. I made it up. It's off. They're not doing much for the mental health of football fans. And I'm very sad that the BBC had joined in over the weekend on Match of the Day and Match of the Day 2. It doesn't suit them. Rather than just ask you for a summary, Kieran, I've got some points I'd like to talk through because there was some patterns. My own club, Mark Gahey, a classic example of football against business. And for once, football won because there's Oliver Glasner telling the world that he said to Steve Parish he wants Mark Gahey to stay, and there's Steve Parish telling Oliver Glasner, well, we won't get any money for him this time next season, so we need to cash in. And unusually, it seems to me that football was the winner on this occasion rather than business. But we weren't the only club where managers were saying, well, we want the player, and the owners were saying, tough, we've got to get rid of him.
Yes, it was an incredible period of time. Some big transactions went through yesterday, and I've got to say, and it pains me slightly to say this, that the way that Eze and great Mark Gahey have conducted themselves has been as consummate professionals. And you can't say that about some players at other clubs who have been trying to solicit a move. And this is where we've got this huge paradox. Mark Gahey conducts himself professionally, doesn't get the move. Isak and Visa don't go on strike, or do go on strike, and they get the benefits that brings. So it does. What signal is that sending the business of football? I can understand Steve Parish's perspective. He sees Mark Gahey as a wasting asset in terms of value, in terms of recruiting value. We saw that with other clubs. There's another window coming up in 6 months' time, or in 4 months' time. What will happen there? We will wait to see. But incredible numbers, £3.3 billion. If you go back in history to the first transfer, it wasn't even a window; it was a full season in 92-93.
Yeah.
It was less than 100 million. So and remember, we've still got the January window. The Premier League spent more money than France, Spain, Italy, and the other member of the Big Five is concerned. So it does show that the Premier League is by far the preeminent beast as far as transfer spending is concerned. What is driving that? It's a new TV deal, which is for 4 years as opposed to 3. So that gives clubs greater certainty. They know that they've got the support of Sky and TNT until 2029. That's allowed them to spend. We've got 6 clubs in the Champions League for the first time ever. That means extra money. The Club World Cup is coming back. Bigger stadiums, higher ticket prices, more expensive merchandise. Ultimately, this is going to fall on the shoulders of not just the owners, but those who support the clubs as well.
You forgot Germany, Kieran.
I did forget Germany, yes.
You had a senior moment.
I've had a few recently, yes.
I could see it. I want to come on to the other countries later on in this discussion, Kieran. You say Mark Gahey's being very professional, but according to those Palace fans in the know on WhatsApp groups today, they're hearing he's only going to play at 98% for the rest of the season, and he's going to make a statement to that effect. I forgot to mention, Kieran, as I should have said, with the football season has started, 2 good wins for both our clubs, which Palace fans, amazingly, when we were 1-0 up at half-time against Villa, the consensus was from every single Palace, well, we'll lose this because we'll be knackered after Norway. We can't possibly... we've won 3-0. And then the same people going, yeah, we're really fit this season. This is why I've left 3 WhatsApp groups in the past 2 days, Kieran. I can't be doing with it. But good wins for both our teams, weren't they? Yes, the football season is back.
And we're just entering an international break. And this gives us an opportunity, say. Yes, it's international break. Windows show. Where do football matches take place for countries? They take place at the National Stadium. And who is coming to Windsor Park in October? It's us.
It is us, yes. I don't think it's called Windsor Park anymore, though, is it? Well, wherever it's called, we're coming to it in October.
We're coming to it in October, yes.
We'll be giving you the details of that later. Let's get back to the transfer window, Kieran. One big noticeable thing, lots, including 2 of Palace's deals, lots of loan deals with obligations to buy. Seemingly far more so this transfer window than many in the past. Is there a reason for that, Kieran? Is there a pattern, or is it just...
No, it's a trend which has continued. If you take a look at the proportion of transfers which contained, initially it used to be an option to buy, but we are seeing clubs now, especially on the selling side, putting through these obligation to buy clauses. This does have potential some benefits from a PSR point of view, but also it means that the selling club can share in success. So if you take a look at some of the deals which have involved perhaps Premier League players going to Italy or Germany, should we say, and elsewhere, but also domestic. If a club avoids relegation, it kicks in. So therefore, you now have to buy the player. The player has proved himself to be of sufficient quality. So when we talk about an obligation to buy, that's not the same as saying you 100% have to buy that player. The obligation is always linked to what we refer to as an obligating event. And that will be some form of success as far as the club to which the player has moved to. So that could be Champions League qualification. That could be winning a local trophy. It could be avoiding relegation. It could be getting promotion and so on. But you have to look at the small print, because if it was simply a case of you have to buy the player in 12 months' time, then you bought the player today because you've committed. So there will be something outstanding. Could be linked to a number of appearances. There are various nuances and subtleties. If you take a look at a player's contract, and I've seen a few recently, and you go through on a clause by clause basis, it is fascinating from a nerd's point of view.
So Palace, for example, one of the very last deals, we signed a striker from Getafe with an obligation to buy, and it said the deal was worth 17.4 million euros. Does that mean if the obligating event takes place, we'll be paying 17.4 million euros for him, or is that the cost of the loan deal?
No, I would imagine that there will be a loan fee, plus if certain conditions are achieved, then that will top it up to 17.4. Or it could be that you're paying a loan fee of, let's say, 2 million this year, and you've got a further 17.4. Sure, okay. But without seeing the contract, it's difficult to say one way or the other.
We've discussed at great length, Kieran, how Chelsea can afford to bring a lot of players in. Why they need to bring so many in is another matter. But people talking about Liverpool in particular, Sunderland in particular, who've spent huge amounts of money in this transfer window, and wondering how they can afford to do so.
Well, in the case of Liverpool, I think you must always remember that a PSR assessment takes place over 3 years. Now, Liverpool won the Premier League in 2024-25 without, I think, was it just Chiesa that they signed?
Yeah.
So they spent about 12 million. Since then, they've sold Trent Alexander-Arnold, Nunez is gone, Diaz is gone, Quansah has gone. So Liverpool have been very good at shifting out squad players and bringing in new players. And remember, even though that they've signed Alexander Isak for 125 million, for amortization purposes, you divide that by 5 and it's 25. So Liverpool, incredibly strong position. You've got an enhanced Anfield. It's 61,000 seats. Remember, 7 or 8 years ago, it was 45,000. There's the deal which has kicked in with Adidas, which is worth a hell of a lot more than the deal with Nike. So additional revenues from that. The Champions League is worth far more than it was. It's worth there's an extra €500 million to be split between the qualifying teams compared to where we were 2 years ago. And you've got at least one further home match. So you factor all of that in. Liverpool in a very strong position. As far as Sunderland is concerned, again, they've had a couple of player sales. So Bellingham's gone to Germany. They sold Tommy Watson, youth academy player, I think, to Brighton. So that's your pure profit as far as the calculations are concerned. And then they've spent, and they ran themselves pretty well when they were in the Championship. They weren't one of these clubs which went, right, we're going to go right to the limit. We're going to lose £20 million a year. Under the new owners, I've got to say, I've been very impressed with Sunderland, that they've not got giddy, and now they're reaping the rewards.
Which is pretty incredible, really. If you watch Sunderland Till I Die, the first couple of seasons under those other owners, you wouldn't have imagined the Sunderland would suddenly turn into a sensible club. I think hindsight will show that Jack Grealish is one of the best moves of this transfer window. I think he's been liberated, and I think Everton have done a brilliant job. But he's one of very few English players moving between English clubs, Kieran. Again, this is something that's been pointed out by a lot of people. Is there any particular reason why that might be? For the vast majority of players coming into the Premier League are coming from overseas.
Yeah, the Premier League is effectively funded, and I think without the Premier League, there's a fair chance that the French Liga might collapse this year. So,
oh right, okay.
Simply because the French football deal is looking absolutely appalling. So having to move players on is one thing. I think there's been a few issues. Premier League clubs, because you've got these strange rules for what is home qualified, you are seeing players, even that they're based from overseas or that they're born overseas, can now be deemed to be sort of domestic qualified for various purposes. So with this very strange transfer of Buonanotte, the Argentinian lad, going from Brighton to Chelsea, and that means that if he stays at Chelsea until January, he now becomes domestic qualified for your squad purposes. So, doesn't seem to make sense, but who comes up with these rules is the people we should be perhaps quizzing. I don't think there's that many English players, and also because of the fact that you've got to have so many home-produced players, it does mean that there's a premium in terms of pricing as well of those players, which has perhaps meant that they become, relative to overseas players, they become that much more expensive. And we're seeing some strange behaviour. Third choice goalkeepers who are English are worth an absolute fortune because it's deemed to be part of your squad. They're not going to get a game, but they do mean that you qualify with the rules.
And conversely, I mean, you're like Tariq Lamptey, gone to Fiorentina for $6 million. That would have been 3 times that much, surely, if he'd gone to an English club, wouldn't it? That's a steal, I'd imagine.
It's a strange one, and it's textbook Brighton, if you don't mind me saying so, in the sense that Tariq Lamptey's contract expired on the 30th of June. So they gave him a 1-year contract, and they then sold him for $6 million. So it was business. He meant that he got a potential opportunity to play. He could have gone and taken his own risk in the sense that said, I'm not going to sign that 1-year contract. But Brighton being Brighton, they utilised this well. They paid him wages for a couple of months, which won't have cost £6 million, and they've sold him for $6 million. We're not a football show. I think he's a fantastic player. If he had 2 hamstrings, he would be an 18, £20 million player. He's one of those things.
Yeah. Obviously, sometimes you can't help yourself when there's something going on. You don't want to take part in it, but you think, I'll just turn Sky Sports News on for 5 minutes because the WhatsApp is like a fucking percussion. It's like the timpani going on. It's like a triangle just going constantly off on my phone. I couldn't be doing with that. You put Sky Sports News on and you think, why have I done this? I feel slightly grubby. But noticeable as well. Obviously, their focus is on the Premier League, but incredibly noticeable when the numbers are coming up for transfers to Scottish clubs, how little they're spending compared to Premier League clubs. And it put it into stark. I think there was like a run of 3 mid-ranking Premier League clubs paying 30 million quid for an overseas player, and then there's a run of Rangers selling 4 million, 5 million. It really does put it into stark contrast, doesn't it, the money between the two countries?
That's right, and that's driven by broadcasting. It's the Premier League is exported to 190 countries around the world. We had Neil Doncaster from the SPFL. They are trying to export Scottish football, but it's a scrap. The Premier League got there first, and first mover advantage from a business point of view is worth an absolute fortune because you build up the loyalties within fans who are looking for a football club to support. In Scotland, you're looking for Scottish expats who are likely to tune in, and that's going to be a much smaller demographic.
Looking at the vast numbers of money spent, Kieran, and players in and out, any deals that took your eye that was slightly strange or unusual?
Yes, I think if you were to say panic buy on deadline day, Jadon Sancho from Manchester United to Villa, for a player that's been on been on loan the last 2 seasons, and Chelsea had an obligation to buy Sancho, and they paid to get themselves out of that obligation. That to me seemed a bizarre transaction. But Villa, I think, were the one club who are under more pressure than any other in terms of satisfying the rules. So therefore, they couldn't afford to buy him because they would have breached they were in danger of breaching the UEFA rules. Chelsea have been super smart in the way that they have conducted themselves, that they have had to satisfy this strange rule which has gone under the radar from UEFA. You've had a breach, and therefore in this window, you've got to have a net negative spend. So no amortization, is simply looking at this is what you bought, this is what you've sold. Some of the players that they did sell weren't from their list A. That caused problems. Yeah, they've done really smart business. And also, you've got to give Todd Bowley a lot of credit for persuading Strasbourg to buy Ben Chilwell, given that he was on an alleged 200 grand a week. I think whoever is on the Strasbourg side of the deal, Todd Bowley, because that's owned by Blueco. I think they perhaps overpaid there.
Yeah, there's a couple of Chelsea. Well, Palace are going to Strasbourg, so we will say hello to some of the Chelsea players on their behalf.
If you've shopped online, chances are you've bought from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout, the one that makes buying so incredibly easy? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes it incredibly easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/promo. Go to shopify.com/promo.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
One move that didn't happen, Kieran, finally, was Sheffield Wednesday attempted to bring a player in, but the EFL blocked it.
Yes. So I know that some Sheffield Wednesday fans are angry towards the EFL. In my view, and it's not all of them, I think their anger should be directed towards Dejan Chansiri. So they did try to sign some players, one of which was Heskey from Manchester City. And the EFL said to Chansiri, you've got to be able to prove to us that you can cover those costs. And he was unable to do so. So therefore, the EFL said, you're under sanction. You're not allowed to register that player. Sheffield Wednesday have registered Harry Amas from Manchester United. But the reason why they've managed to do that is that Manchester United are paying 100% of his wages, paying for his accommodation in Sheffield, and paying him any bonuses that he might pick up from Wednesday itself. So Chansiri doesn't have to pay a single penny. And that's because Manchester United want this young man. He's 18 years old. They want him to get experience. They think he's a promising player. And Sheffield Wednesday said, we'll take him on, but we are not paying a penny, because if that was the case, the EFL, it's called the Club Financial Reporting Unit. They're the accountants that wear the underpants over the trousers. And they're the people that are effectively playing the role of Caesar as far as Sheffield Wednesday are concerned, and giving it the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
Is that unusual, Kieran, for a club loaning a player to say we will take on board every single penny that it costs? It's not rare, but it's certainly not the way that things usually are done, especially if you've got a promising player.
So there are many players that will go from the Premier League to get experience in the Championship. I think about Ben White, for example, when he went to Leeds, part of a player development, and the buying club will pay a proportion of wages, and potentially they'll also go and pay a top up should certain goals be achieved. I think in the case of this young man, Manchester United are looking. They want him to get experience. They want to see what he's like when he's 19, and therefore they said, right, we're going to be nice guys about this, and B, we want to prioritise his development.
In other news, Kieran, the independent football regulator is definitely happening because they're at the what I like to call the A-team stage, where they're putting their crew together to get on that plane. And obviously they'll have to leave one of them behind, but they'll be getting on that plane to go and save English football. There's a lot of jobs being advertised for the independent football regulator.
That's right. And if any listeners are interested, if you go to civil service jobs on Tinternet and just type in the word football, there's currently, I think there's 5 jobs. It's noticeable that there hasn't been confirmation as yet in terms of the chair of the independent football regulator, and therefore the chief executive who's going to be appointed by the chair. That role has not been confirmed. And I think that's a disappointment. We now have identity politics has come into what was previously a cross-party agreement in terms of the independent regulator. And you're either pro-regulator or against regulator, and I absolutely respect everybody's point of view. But I think Kemi Badenoch has decided this is an opportunity to fight the government. It's noticeable that her A-level grades have now been published. I think 2 Bs and a D, which would mean that she wouldn't qualify herself to sit on the Price of Football module, which I teach. And she's opposed to the regulator, and I genuinely think that that's a disappointment. It's just delaying. But head of commercial, that job has been advertised. Technical architect, whatever that is. Head of sports strategy, which is involved with grassroots, and 2 roles which my Uncle Terry might be interested in: an enforcement officer and a senior enforcement officer.
Oh, he'd be senior enforcement officer, wouldn't he?
I think he would. Yes, cash only, of course.
Of course. I'm not sure about head of commercial. Were we expecting half and half scarves from the independent football regulator? Independent football regulator T-shirt? That's very strange.
Could be.
In what I take normally to be good news, Kieran, we haven't mentioned the Football Association of Ireland for quite some time, which is usually a step in the right direction. But unfortunately, we are mentioning the Football Association of Ireland now.
Yes, this is depressing, but I've got to be honest, for me, not surprising news. I have been monitoring what's been happening at the FAI, and this is for the Republic of Ireland. Perhaps they need somebody to put on a football finance show at the Aviva Stadium to assist.
While we're over this, yeah.
We've certainly been asked to pop down to Dublin, I can assure you. I've been contacted by a few people. But yes, it's actually very sad news. There's a voluntary redundancy scheme. They're looking to lose up to 70 members of staff, at least 40. And this is for an organisation that only employs 230 people. In my view, this is very much a legacy of the Delaney era, where money was being spent and there was either no governance or next to no governance taking place at the FAI. They owe €40 million to the Irish government. This redundancy scheme has come as a result of outsourcing some consultants to take a look at the organisation, which I'm never hugely in favour of, because consultants always say you need to get rid of some people. That they see people as cost rather than assets. It does look like grassroots and academy football in Ireland is going to be hit as a result of this. I know there was a presentation given to the FAI which said that the Republic's best team is the equivalent of the 5th division in Belgium, which is one hell of an indictment in terms of the way that Irish football is organised. And I think that perhaps reflects upon the decrease in the Republic of Ireland's ranking as far as FIFA is concerned. It's taken a big hit. They're banking a lot on qualifying for the World Cup in 2026 to try to get additional money. But as it pains me to say, somebody that's followed Ireland both home and away on occasion, they seem to have more confidence in the Republic getting there than the vast majority of the fans.
It's been a long time since I was involved in HR, Kieran, but I am aware that sometimes a voluntary redundancy exercise can be just a way of getting rid of some excess, making some savings. It doesn't seem to be that way here. And again, what I always find fascinating, and it's always the same back when I was involved, when people are being asked to take voluntary redundancies, it's very rarely the top executives that are being asked to take voluntary redundancies. And if they are, they go with a lot more money than the people, the mid-ranking people who have been asked to take voluntary redundancy will do.
That's right. I mean, as somebody that always reads Rotten Boroughs in Private Eye, the number of senior executives whose behaviour seems to be unprofessional and unbecoming of many of their posts, the payoffs that they get from the local authorities are very high. And sadly, this can be the case in bureaucratic organisations as well. So voluntary redundancy, you don't necessarily get the people that need to go. So, sometimes people will say, well, I'm due to retire in 2 or 3 years. I'll take it. I've done the sums and I'm better off. And they could actually be people who are good at their particular role.
I shall tell Ian Hislop you read Rotten Boroughs in Private Eye. He'll be delighted, I imagine. As I imagine will the chap who writes Rotten Boroughs in Private Eye be delighted as well. You'll have made his week. It's
fortnight, surely.
Fair point. He's made his fortnight. 2 stories from Scotland, Kieran, one of which looks like it might be good, one of which is definitely not good. And the first one is Hamilton Academical, who have been on our radar in the past few months.
Yes. It looks like the current owner, Sereth Zengin, is in negotiations, and this is where I get a little bit twitchy, in negotiations with a consortium to find a new owner. They've had a 15-point deduction due to late payment for HMRC. And again, when we had Neil Doncaster on the show, he explained that they want clubs to live within their means. And also, it's not fair on other clubs. If you're paying wages and you're not paying HMRC, that gives you a competitive advantage on the pitch. So they have had a 15-point deduction. The current owner, who's only been there for a couple of years, is claiming that he's being victimised, he's being scapegoated by the SPFL. I think that's a harsh assessment by the owner. There are rules, and you've broken the rules, and it's very definitive. But I hope from Aki's point of view, who have got issues to do with the ground as well, that this just gets resolved. There is certainly interest in Scottish football, so that is a positive. The other story relating to Scotland is that of Edinburgh City. They were given a set 15-point deduction a couple of months ago. They appealed it, and again, I looked at the basis for their appeal, and I thought this does seem a bit strange. They appointed a provisional liquidator. Now, under Scottish football rules, if you have an insolvency event, that's an automatic 15-point penalty. And they said, well, it wasn't an administrator. I said, well, it's no, but a provisional liquidator is just as grim. So sadly for them, that's a points deduction. It makes it that much more difficult for whoever's in charge to sell the club, because the implications in terms of how their season's going to finish is not good.
It's a city, Kieran, it's a city I love. But it's quite a big city, which makes you wonder why the third team in Edinburgh is always I mean, Meadowbank didn't do too bad, but they just struggled to get people through the gate. Whoever's not Hearts or Hibs just seem to struggle to get an identity or to get enough people to make the club viable.
Yeah, Meadowbank was always a strange one, and they did have success.
Yeah,
for a period of time, playing in a stadium which I think it's fair to say he was wearing outsized shoes, to put it mildly. But it's difficult to work out how the club can generate that third tier support unless you go through some form of being an outsider to a greater extent. We Partick Thistle, have done that mainly due to their scary mascot, in my opinion.
Yeah, they could. I mean this seriously. There's a lot of hipsters in Edinburgh. They could do a Dulwich Hamlet. Dulwich Hamlet are doing remarkably well in terms of people coming through the turnstiles because they've marketed themselves as the local team for the bearded boys and the girls in the check shirts and anything in between. Just on Hamilton Academical, we know Scottish football is popular, and we know, ironically, apart from Edinburgh, it's the second most watched league, I think, in the world in terms of the proportion of population per capita. But you do wonder why an American-based consortium, or what they would see in Hamilton Academical, because again, they're never going to be getting 10,000 through the gate. I don't know how much they're paying for them, but they're paying for a club in crisis. So, and it's great news that they could be here, but you do wonder what they're getting out of it.
The belief amongst American investors is that there is an opportunity through the fact that if you are a Scottish club, it's a lot easier to recruit players from Europe than it is in England because the governing body endorsement rules are that much more generous. There is also the view that it is the old country, and you're doing it not necessarily for financial reasons, but Scotland, as we know, is very popular in America. We've got Donald Trump, of course, owns golf clubs in Scotland. Yeah. So there is a sort of an emotional attachment. And I've got to say this: the American economy has done fantastically well. This is a non-political statement. It's done very well under Donald Trump, under Biden, and it's looking at 3% growth this year as well. And here I will be a little bit political. That money has been very much concentrated in the hands of the few. So there has been benefit, and there's a lot of American investors now with spare cash, genuinely not knowing what to do with it. It's too expensive to invest into American franchise sports. It's too expensive to invest in the MLS because it's £250 million entry fee or expansion fee in that league. You could buy a club in Scotland for less than 5 million, for less than 2 million potentially, and all of a sudden you can fly across a few times a year. You've got the prospect of a cup match if you get a good draw against one of the big boys from Edinburgh or Glasgow, and it's a hobby rather than a business investment.
Well, on a slightly similar note, Kieran, and more focusing on the business investment, I read a really interesting interview with the CEO of Punjab Warriors about Morecambe and about their intent to make it a club that Sikhs all around the world can look to support and get behind. And he said there's a lot of Sikhs around the world with a lot of money. So this is a club, they've appointed a Sikh manager, the first one ever in English football, which is fantastic. I mean, won, lost one so far. But it's interesting they were talking about it as a model for attracting a group of people that are not normally involved in English football into English football, which seems to me to make perfect sense financially.
Yes, and I think we need to give the new owners the benefit of the doubt at Punjab Warriors. The fact that they were approved by the EFL when Morecambe was still in League Two does give me some comfort. I have had one or two reservations, but I've read the interviews and they said, we're not football people, and they're open to admit that, but they do appear to have a strategy. And I think anybody that comes in with a sort of a long-term plan, and now it's a case of engaging with the fans, engaging with the broader Sikh community. It can certainly have some benefits. We've seen Wrexham go from where they were to where they are. Everybody thinks that they can replicate that with a slightly different variant.
The owner of Bournemouth, Kieran, Bill Foley, seems to have the collecting bug. He seems to want to get some more clubs under his belt. All I can say, Bill, if you're listening, is around about March time, check your email very carefully, right, and double check. make sure you go to BournemouthFC.com as well, in case it goes in there. But just keep an eye out on what's happening. If you're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and you're in the top 6 in Europe, just have a word. Just bear in mind. He's bought another club, Kieran.
Yes, he seems a man in a hurry, and a man who is clearly keen on the multi-club ownership model. Our good friend Matt Slater of The Athletic has identified that he's buying 25% of HNK Rijeka. Apologies for my garbling of the pronunciation there, from Croatia. This is to add to Bournemouth, and he's expanding the stadium at Bournemouth. He's clearly a man in a hurry. He's got investments in France, in New Zealand, Hibs in Scotland, and as well as having a strategic alliance with one of the MLS franchises as well. So a man that likes the idea. Interesting to note, this goes back to, I think, conversation that we had with Neil Doncaster a few weeks ago, and we covered this story on a cruise about what's the ideal size for a league. Well, in Croatia, it's a 10-team league. So, those people were saying, well, in Scotland, it should be 18 or 20, probably no more than 18. It is further evidence of leagues which say, in order to preserve quality, you perhaps need fewer teams, and that can lead to greater not necessarily competitive balance, but more competitive balance. So that's where we are. Looks like this deal is going to go through. If Bournemouth, as you say, if they're having a good season, I'm sure that he would have seen what can happen when things go wrong, and this looks like a man with money to spare who wants to invest it.
Do you know what? I have to say, Kieran, given the way we played twice against Norway's 8th best team, I think we're probably in the league that we should be in, really. I wouldn't give much of our chances in the Europa League, to be perfectly honest. But it is what it is, as they say.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
I mean, the owner of Hartlepool United, Kieran, this is our penultimate story. The owner of Hartlepool United manages to be both thin-skinned and tin-eared at the same time, which is not a brilliant combination, is it?
It's not. He has banned the local reporter from the Hartlepool Mail, a gentleman called Robbie Stelling. And you might be thinking, I think I know another Hartlepool United fan with that name. And indeed, it is Jeff Stelling's son. And he's saying that the reporting has been negative about the club. And I think it's reporting facts. Now, I've got to I've got some skin in this. About 6 months ago, I did an interview with BBC Tees Radio, and I thought I was mildly critical of certain aspects of governance at the football club. They hadn't published their results. They'd used a loophole to extend publication for 3 months within the rules. But I've always taken the view: if you've got nothing to hide, hide nothing. That's always been. Hartlepool are losing money. Raj Singh, to his credit, has put an interest-free loan into the club. At the same time, he's charging Hartlepool United £180,000 in management fees from his care home company. And I don't see, and I'm not being facetious, I don't see what a care home can offer a football club in terms of services. Hartlepool United has 132 employees. It's losing money. It's at a really promising start to the season, and I think this is the frustrating thing, in that the local newspaper, which you've got to give credit for, has come out in favour of its staff member. It's saying, if you're going to ban him, and there have been similar attempts to ban one of the BBC local reporters as well, which resulted in the BBC saying for one of the matches, well, if you're not going to allow a reporter in, then why should we report on you? The best advertisement, the best microphone for Hartlepool United, because you're not going to get it on BBC National, you're not going to get it on Sky Sports, you're not going to talk, and that's not a criticism of those organisations, is going to be your local radio, it is going to be your local newspaper, and even if you don't like what they say, they're still reporting about the club. And I do think Raj Singh is being very thin-skinned. We've offered him the opportunity to come on here, and when we extend that opportunity, I have said that we will stand in solidarity with Robbie Stelling, and we won't do a live show at Hartlepool until he's allowed to come back. And he gave a thumbs up to that, as his dad did. But I just cannot see the logic. It's free advertising in the local newspaper, and you're throwing that away. And for a club that's in the playoff positions in the National League, why throw away that publicity?
Maybe some of the old reclining seats from the care home are being sent down to the physio room at the ground for the help the players get up who are struggling. It's not just the local advertising that they lose, Kieran. It's a goodwill. I mean, like Jim Ratcliffe could ban the Manchester Evening News, for example, right? And it wouldn't really dent their media coverage because they're a global brand, and the rest of the world will still carry on. But what it would do is really annoy the Manchester United fans from Manchester, and this is going to come as a shock to a lot of our listeners. 95% of Manchester United fans do come from Manchester or Salford. So it would be a terrible mistake in terms of goodwill, which is why I don't understand why Mr. Singh can't understand that's exactly the same for Hartlepool. He's already alienated Jeff Stelling, the man who probably did more to give that town good PR than anyone else in the past 20 years. And now he's banning their main outlet for news and information. It just doesn't seem... I mean, what does he want? Does he want... if they lose 2-0, does he want the paper to report that they won 2-0? I don't quite get what his issue is, to be honest.
I don't know. I think there have been allegations that Reynolds and McElhenney, who bought Wrexham, were at one point in time interested in Hartlepool. Now, I don't know whether that's true. I don't know whether that's somebody flying a kite. It could be either. But I think he's taken umbrage at anybody who has mentioned it. My criticisms were the club's losing money. You're not publishing your accounts on time. It's a lack of transparency, and I'm big on transparency.
Yeah, of course.
And I had to deal with various grumpy solicitor letters as a result of that. And to be fair, that was with an interview with the BBC. So it was the BBC's legal team who were said, and they backed both the local reporter and they backed me. I didn't say anything controversial. I didn't say anything that wasn't factually accurate as well. So that's the frustration. Nobody is out trying to give Hartlepool United a kicking. It's a club which I've been to as an away fan. It's a club which you've had a couple of bevies at before a match and a bit of a giggle, and the local fans were great fun as well. And therefore, you realise that people are on your side, Raj Singh, that they're not against you.
Yeah, and bloody hell, Kieran, that's a sliding doors moment, isn't it? Imagine that in a trailer on a Hollywood backlot somewhere, two men tossing a coin. Heads it's Wrexham, tails it's Hartlepool. Holy mother of God. Our last story, Kieran, we wouldn't normally cover at any great length a lower league team losing money in one particular season, were it not that takes their total losses to a huge amount for a lower league team. We're talking of Ebbsfleet United.
That's right. Ebbsfleet, going back to this issue of transparency, Ebbsfleet United did not publish their accounts for 15 months after the year end. And the legal position is you're supposed to publish them after 9. So I think it's fair to say that I was a bit narky because, again, I don't think it's a good sign of transparency. They didn't have a great season in 23-24. They were the final club of the clubs that are under the remit of the regulator to report. And they lost £2.9 million in 23-24. And their total losses over the years are now £22 million. This is fifth-tier football. And I think it is indicative that we don't perhaps keep an eye on some of the smaller clubs. And on the back of that, they can rack up losses. I think their current owners have now announced that the club has been sold to somebody new. So welcome the new owners. We hope that they've got some ideas for the club and can move those forwards. And again, wish them success. But if you've got nothing to hide nothing. And being proactive and transparent will help you in terms of building bonds and engaging with the fan base as well.
Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club, where you'll get ad-free listening, bonus episodes and more. Just go to priceoffootball.com and click on Join the Club to sign up today. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter X, you can find us on YouTube, and if you'd like to buy our book, you can find details on that same website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back on Tuesday, with a questions pod, which we've already had to record, again, for logistical reasons. And then we'll be back next Thursday with another proper live news pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, thank you to everybody for keeping in touch. The transfer window was a very long day for all of us, but we've all managed to get through it. That's the way. I know we don't necessarily sign all of the players we want to, but that's football. There's various ways you can support the show. One of which is to be our club member. And apologies to the club member. We will organise our extra shows for you and our evening. I've been busy with a few projects, and so it's all down to me. But I won't let you down. There's another way you can support the show, however. And that's to give us a review. It helps us in terms of algorithms. It helps us in terms of where we stand in the charts. And remember, I think we were the only independent show in the recent BBC assessment of podcasts. And you can say whatever you want. You could even say you would rather the show presented by Kemi Badenoch and Kenneth Williams. I think one might make mincemeat of the other.
Oh, yeah. See, Kenneth Williams didn't get the A-levels. But he would be. I love Kenneth Williams. There's a famous picture in his autobiography. It's in anyway. If you just search Kenneth Williams, a picture of him at school, primary school, and the kid next to him but one is my Uncle Jim. So
really?
Yeah. He was born in the tenement block next door to where my dad kept it quiet all his whole life. But he lived in North London till he was 18 months old. He never He's always very furtive about the fact.
Yeah.
And when he was challenged on it, he said, "Look, if you leave anywhere in a pram, you can't really say that you lived there, can you?" So he said, "I stayed there because my mum was there, basically." But yeah, no. But Kenneth Williams is just such a hero of mine, such a troubled, such a troubled, complicated man, but one of the funniest people you could ever get to meet. None of those things apply to Kemi Badenoch. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The price of football. The price of football.